The same crew with the addition of Jordi.
Yeah, I miss you on Sunday.
This is the usual gang.
Cool. Thank you so much for stay with us. Hi, my name is Chichi. I am the partner at Hack VC and also the co-founder of Scaling X. Yeah, and then really like we only prepared this whole conference for 6 weeks, and I think I'm pretty proud of the teamwork. Thank you everyone for still joining us. And then let me start with the panelists, and thank you so much. Jordi Alexandra, Chief Alchemist of Mantle. Sandy Pan is a really good friend of mine who's the co-founder of Scroll. And then Kenny Lee is the co-founder of Manta Network. Vince Yan, co-founder of zkLink. Thank you so much for joining us. Yeah, so this topic is about Ethereum, which is the Ethereum ecosystem, which is one of the, I guess everyone is following. Ethereum is the start of the whole game, other than Bitcoin. So first question, really curious about in the blockchain ecosystem, projects often find themselves in the unique position between collaboration and competition. How do you navigate the dynamics and have there been instance where collaboration with what might be seen as competitors has brought about positive outcomes for your project? So this is a question for everyone. Should we start with Jordi?
Hi, everybody. Yeah, it's an interesting question. Actually, I like this question. I've seen many times, like last cycle, where projects were trying to be complementary, especially on the application layer, and they ended up competing with each other because they would start saying, okay, we'll just do options, and you guys do the spot, and then we're all going to be friends, and then they start going after the entire vertical. So we've seen it many times. But there have been cases where I thought that we were competing, and we ended up not. Like, for example, on the layer 2 space, which is very relevant, I think there's starting to be a differentiation between these like hyperchains, superchains, and the more product-focused L2s. So something like Optimism or zk Sync, for example, it seemed initially like it would be a competitor to something like Mantle, but in the end, we're just going to choose one of these base infrastructure layers. They're not really focusing, like if you look at OP, they're more focused on OP stack rather than the actual chain, which is not really doing much. Same with zk Sync, I think they're not really focused on ERA so much. So we can end up collaborating, and I think that's something that surprised me, but makes a lot of sense.
I would concur with that. I think the space moves so quickly, and every major player builds its own ecosystem and builds its own tools, and sometimes those tools can be helpful for other players that are seemingly a competitor, but it's net positive. So I think one thing that Mantle does very well, continue to do is I think I met quite a few teams, our tools and supports that Mantle used, and that set a really good precedence, and those teams continue to service other L2s and other players in the space, and that is a net positive contribution. And I think similarly, I think with Manta, the innovation on the modularity front, being like a very first mover when it comes to kind of using different components of a tech stack, that's kind of setting up a trend where more people will think about it conceptually that way. And that changes the narrative of the industry, and in that sense, there's always kind of so I think the analogy I would use is that sometimes coffee shops exist better as a cluster within a mall, and I think of our industry as somewhat existing that way as well.
Yeah, and just to kind of echo what Sandy was saying, right? Like I think the theme here is we're in this great experimental stage where every single project is contributing to a cause greater than the project itself and even the collective of the projects that are working here, right? On the modularity side, on the zk proving side for scalability, right? On aggregation, on bridging, et cetera, right? And these are all going to be contributions that future projects are going to take as well in order to build and mature the ecosystem. I think when it comes to competition, right, I think it's less of, it's ironic because, you know, we're here competing on these on-chain metrics, right, when it comes to marketing and, you know, comparables and all that stuff. But, you know, it's really a big fish in a small pond issue because at the same time, in theory, if we were to have these quote unquote killer apps, right, then it would take the combined scalability and coordination of all the L2s in existence in order to sustain something that, you know, the App Store has as one of the top 100 iPhone projects. And so, you know, I think when it comes to the ecosystem level competition, it's really just more so a symptom of this bigger issue of adoption that still needs to be driven cooperatively across the industry.
This is a very interesting question for us because zkLink is building something that is trying to aggregate and simplify developer and user experience across different layer 2s. So we're working hand in hand with most of the layer 2 projects. So collaboration is our thesis, and we want to continue to work to most of the major players in the space. And we're seeing problems of fragmentation and lack of standards. And also at the same time, we're seeing like teams are working on similar things, but probably from different perspectives. And I totally agree that this add up together is net positive. And according to our experience, I think it's quickly converging because the different layer 2s are proposing stacks that facilitate developers to run their own roll-ups for applications. And also there are modular solution providers, sequencers, and the DA solutions, and quickly converging to a more unified developer experience. But we're still at the very early stage, so there's still a lot to do, and the competition is there. We cannot ignore that. But hopefully, then together we will build something that could work.
Yeah, thank you. So the next one is specifically for Sandy, for zkRow. Yeah, so zkRow stands out for its commitment to boosting Ethereum scalability without compromising on security. So how does zkRow, you know, achieve this balance, differentiating itself from other scalability options? Additionally, could you share the recent milestone your project has achieved and outline the primary goals you aim to accomplish in the near future?
Yeah, thank you for that question. I think the most major milestones are the ones that doesn't really hit the headline. So the fact that we've been live with no incidents is not newsworthy. The fact that nothing went wrong, touch wood so far, is not super interesting. And the fact that we have full proofs, we're open source and everything works. We have Chainlink, we're the first and only one zkEVM to have Aave, Uniswap, Lido, Compound, and hundreds of other applications. It's cool, but it's like doesn't make the news per se. I think from my perspective, like we're one of those kind of more product focused L2s, and we care about the tech, and we also care about the community, and we care about kind of getting feedback about what matters. And I think our focus has always been scaling with security and decentralization not compromised. And so and that's a really tough challenge, and it takes time. So it's a slow grind. We see this as like a very, very long-term game. And since mainnet, what we've been able to do is to collect more community feedback. And the community speaks loud and clear is that they want us to be cheaper. And we're working on that. It's just kind of, it takes time, and we would rather get there without any incidents, without any downtime. We think that's what's required and the crux of what a roll-up is about. And then we're also adding extensions to the story to make it more usable, to make it more fun, to make it more engaging. And but we see this as a kind of a natural product extension strategy. We're working as hard and as fast as we can, but some of these things just takes time. So the major milestone is just that we exist. We will continue to exist, and I think the long-term goal is to kind of be in that kind of self-sustainable and like immortal sense that Bitcoin and Ethereum is right now.
I mean, Sandy is really humble. Every time I meet her, she's always talking about what is the real application can attract Web3, like people outside of Web3 to really like to want to try to build blockchain. So she's always like looking for real values and then looking for new users. I'm really proud of you. So yeah, next question I wanted to ask Kenny. So can you discuss any technical innovations that Manta Network is particularly proud of?
Yeah, sure. So, part of this is technical, but more so, I think, is philosophical. I think in the previous panel that we had on stage here, we also talked a lot, or I also talked a lot about this, and I think it's really just kind of pushing the envelope on modularity. And I don't want to go into too much detail here, but the point is that in 2024, right, like I think the school of thought that we adhere to over at Manta is that there's a lot of specialized teams, specialized technologies that can be used to further enhance value delivered directly to users. And so we want to be able to take advantage of that in order to bring those benefits to our ecosystem. And I think that having sort of that modular approach allows us to be able to move in that direction in a much more agile manner. I do think that, as these sort of modular specialized services continue to mature and the variety of such continues to expand, then we will see a future in a development where instead of building everything necessarily in-house, right, like there's a lot of services, tools, integrations that projects, especially on the infrastructure level, will be taking a look at, in this sort of modular sense of bringing on those specialized services to go to market, to continue to adapt, to continue to provide value to users.
Yeah, but then so besides that, what are some of the biggest technical challenges you faced in developing the solutions?
So when it comes to using these types of services, right? Like you can essentially refer to them as third-party services. And when you're looking at third-party services, there's definitely sort of trade-offs and risk assumptions involved in that. And so, some of the thinking around, I think, the modular approach eventually will be shifted more towards resiliency and redundancy, because uptime, right, you can almost think of it as a centralized sort of problem currently, because the core network itself, if it goes down, then the problem stems from the core network itself. But when you're thinking about a modular approach, you also have to think about the uptime and resiliency and security of the third-party services as well, right? And in many ways, definitely, that can be more reliable with the right team, but also you have to have these sort of backup options. And so that's definitely very front of mind for us over at Manta. We're the first to actually start leveraging Celestia for data availability. And as part of that, one of our requirements in order to actually do that was also to think about what happens if Celestia goes down? What are the fallback options here? And so there is full fallback to Ethereum right now, and I think in the future with other sort of data availability solutions becoming available, then I see a world where these L2 services start adapting and plugging in various different solutions in order to have that resiliency, to have that redundancy. Yeah, but we're still very much experimental in this.
Yeah, thank you for that. So next one is for Jordi. Mantle network has been positioned to significantly enhance the DeFi ecosystem. Could you give us, tell more about how Mantle technology, especially post the Duncan upgrades, is revolutionized speed, cost efficiency, and user experience in DeFi applications. I mean, just recently, how do you think the Mantle net technology is upgrading and then to make user have better experience?
Technology is important, and ultimately, it's a big part of the user experience. I don't want to stick on technology because the reality is our technology philosophy is take the best of what's available, what's out there. Yes, we have a modular approach. We were the first to kind of use external DA. Ultimately, that's made things very cheap, and that's a good user experience. People like cheap gas. We have been the cheapest, even more than zkSync, and we can stand the load. But that's not really the core of the user experience. I think that's one component. You look at the whole stack, and it ultimately, unfortunately, starts from the wallet. Unless you're, very tied into the wallet and give the user that experience, it's not going to be fully smooth. You're always going to be relying on, MetaMask or somebody else to integrate you properly. I think what Solana's done very well is they've had that wallet all the way through to the end with the fees, notwithstanding the recent, issues they've been having with the chain. So the approach that we're taking with technology is ultimately, we're not trying to go up with their buzzwords or, start talking about, decentralizing sequencers and all this stuff. We want to take the best of what's available. We're looking at all the tech stacks. And when you talk about DeFi, it's much more around, can I make something that I would myself want to use? Like, this is the financial product for, my life. This is the wallet that would get me the best yield. This is like fun, intuitive, simple, easy to use. So, we focused on products like Mantle ETH, which is now, around $2 billion. We focused around like the stablecoin thing we're going to announce very soon. We want to have like a very unified stablecoin that's also giving you yield and is composable. So we were, the first to pioneer in that space. We started with Ondo's USDY, which is a good product, but nowadays I think 5% is not getting people excited. So yeah, we've been working with Athena, but obviously that has risks. So we're kind of unifying a lot of these products together. So yeah, I mean we are looking to revitalize DeFi, and I would say we're looking at the whole stack, not just modularity as a concept. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. For Vince, for zkLink, how do you think zkLink is balance the cross-chain swaps and potential vulnerabilities? I think everyone's curious about that.
Yeah, good question. Why we're doing this, building what we're building today, because cross-chain transactions is always associated with risks and costs, and user experience is not so great. We're far from having seamless cross-chain transactions. And I think the number one question we have to answer or have to address is security. This is also the reason that we're building what zkLink is trying to do is to connect different ecosystems and aggregate assets and liquidities one unified layer with zero-knowledge proofs. There are a few points that are important. I think we could have that are good. Important value propositions for users. One is it's completely trustless using zero-knowledge proofs. So funds could enter and exit permissionlessly and verified and by zero-knowledge proofs, is meaning that all those transactions is trustless and could be verified with validity proofs. And then number two is that there's no additional components that we introduced to our system. For example, using layer 0 another trusted fast bridge, meaning that you have to manage liquidity on both ends, and there's always some relays or nodes that oversees this process. But we rely fully on the canonical rollup bridges. This is similar to how you bridge funds from Ethereum layer 1 to layer 2s. And I think we're using multiple rollup bridges, so it meaning that we're able to connect to multiple ecosystems and aggregate the funds together using the canonical rollup bridges, meaning that you are not placing trust on any additional components rather than the rollup itself. If we believe that the rollups are secure, as most users would agree, right? So and then we consider this in this way we achieve higher level of security with minimized trust assumptions, and this is how we address to the security concern when it comes to cross-chain liquidity movements and aggregation. And yeah, there's also other, of course, needs that these faster movements of funds. Then we still see a market for faster bridges. It's always a risk and the satisfaction of your need of user benefits. So the market will find its right value and we will play it out. I think our play is that in long term we do the heavy lifting for aggregation of liquidities for some developers that don't want to go to 20 different layer 2s and deploy 20 times. Imagine the amount of work you have to do that, right? And also we do the heavy lifting for the assets aggregation already for the dApps. Meaning that they can immediately access to assets from 20 different layer 2s, including the 3 on the stage, and you can already build unified one user interface, one product, but with assets from 20 markets, and which means enhanced capital efficiency and simplified user experience. This is very important for us. On top of the security issue. This is always trade-off. Like security, there's no one-stop security if you want to go to multi-chain. So it's always a trade-off of the margin of user benefits and the security that you are giving up. So we're taking an approach that we think it is minimized because we rely on layer 1, Ethereum layer 1. We believe that Ethereum layer 1 is the most secure smart contract platform as of today. So we decided to do this inherit and roll up on Ethereum, and we choose to accept the trust assumptions and also the security of the layer 2s, as most users and developers are already accepting. So that's our thesis.
Yeah, thank you. So here's a question for everyone, starting from Jordi, I guess. I guess people ask you about like how to attract users outside of Web3 to join us. People ask you this question all the time, but I still wanted to check out, like, do you have any new ideas, after attending this Hong Kong festival, Web3 festival? Like anything you can think of that, even meme coin, like, I don't know, just what's the new things?
I mean, meme coins are important in the sense of they tell a story in a simple way, and there's like a shared story between people across the world. So actually, like that is one of the strategies that we have deployed. We have Puff, which is a dragon, and it's hundreds of millions already of market cap. It's a meme coin disguised. I can't say it's exactly a meme coin, but there is a shared story, visual component. It's very simple, it's easy to understand, and it connects with people in a deeper way. And you can use that to ultimately like funnel attention users into what is hopefully like a very good and sound product. So definitely looking at that. And I think we have to look at strategies like that, because the reality is we've already had a cycle quite recently, a couple years ago, and the amount of people that were interested in crypto, I hear people say like, oh, retail's not back. Where's retail's about to come? Coinbase is still not like top 5 on the downloads. There's not that many people that were not existing 2 years ago. So people that were going to be attracted to crypto already had an opportunity in 2021. A lot of them got burned. It's not just a matter of them sort of like coming back in. We do need to improve the product offering, and a lot of it is around storytelling, around simplicity, ease of use, and ultimately just like sound financial products. So we're focusing on that. Obviously, gaming is another way. You know, Web3 gaming has been talked about for many years. We still haven't seen like a lot of breakout like successes, but it's something that makes sense. It fits into the ecosystem. So that's one area. And then the last one, of course, that is very big in Web2 is AI. So keeping an eye on the trends. You know, AI x crypto is still very nascent, doesn't fully make sense sometimes, but it's something that will increasingly, you know, bring users into the space as those two form a bond.
Yeah, Sandy, you want to take the question? Getting users from Web2 or, you know, like non-Web3 people, how to get them?
I think there are. I think. So I think infrastructure and scalability removes some of the onboarding friction, but what makes people want to do it, there needs to be a pull. And the pull needs to be some kind of convenience or some kind of like entertainment. I think these are the two biggest reasons why people are on chain. And entertainment includes kind of like somewhat of a gambling speculative nature that's entertaining, and the cultural products like NFTs or meme coins, those are very entertaining. And I don't know what else I'm missing, but I think in terms of like usefulness, I think you know, like financial and getting yield, that is like somewhat of a more kind of usefulness, and it's getting to a stage where where I think the on-chain yield is just way higher than any off-chain yield that's like even remotely available, and but the friction still exists before like the mass market adoption can come, just because the complication of navigating this and getting access to these high yield products is super tough. So I think just continuing to innovate and you know, if this is an industry that can continue to create like super high yield in a sustainable way, then it's just a matter of time before like almost everybody's here, because that's a really strong pull. And then if we can continue to make lots of like entertaining products, of which I think, you know, people on chain are having a ton of fun with meme coins, but it's hard to like translate beyond to the Web2 users. There needs to be more like, you know, a broader appeal, entertainment value, but you know, I think that's perfectly achievable. So I think these things will bring a lot of Web2 users on chain.
Yeah, I think key word that Sandy said that resonated with me is entertaining, right? I think in the audience, how many of you guys used Adapt today? All right, so I mean, like, even in the audience, it's like probably 10% of us, right? And I feel like that's probably overrepresenting the general Web3 population in terms of actual decentralized application usage. And out of you guys that use dApps today, how many of you guys use dApps that weren't DeFi related? Okay, so, you know, even less, right? And I think that's already pretty much a representative metric. If we can't even get the people in Web3 to use Web3 products, how are we going to get the people outside of Web3 to do that, right? Like, you know, meme coins, yeah, sure, that's great. And it's fun, it's silly, but, you know, I think what Web3 has succeeded in thus far, what crypto has succeeded in thus far is financial tooling. And so if you are attracted to financial incentives and financial use cases, right, then you're probably making your way into Web3. But I do think one of the issues here is that the underlying incentive for everything in Web3 is financial. That's great for financial tools, but that's not great for games. That's not great for social. That's not great for, you know, anything else that you want. And we've seen this attempted, you know, DeFi-ification of all these other products and services. And what is the result? The result is that you have, this misaligned incentives that encourage, the airdrop farming and the botting and all this other stuff, but, it doesn't really encourage the actual usage because there's underlying derived value that we're seeking, right? I don't use TikTok because I'm going to make money. Twitter even integrated the features where you can make money by posting on Twitter and stuff. I've never used that. How many of you guys are monetized on Twitter? Yeah, exactly. No one uses Twitter because of the money. But it seems like everyone's using, SocialFi services for the future airdrops, right? Because you see this pattern of usage going up, and then either the token launches or the project dies before then, and the user base just completely collapses, right? Seemingly overnight. And so the question here is not about necessarily what the current opportunities are for driving that adoption, but really what are the right incentives that need to be in place for these types of applications that can drive the adoption? And I don't think the incentives can be purely financial, and I think that Bird agrees with me.
Yeah, we're all thinking in a similar direction. We're working towards it too, which is lowering the entry barrier for Web3 users first and then Web2 users. Now, there are a lot of teams working on different stuff, and among those, some important progress have been made, like account abstraction, chain abstraction, to eliminating the complexities of Web3 decentralized application usage. Yeah, so this is this is also the things that we've been working on. I think this is still going to be very important for this cycle. Probably will not be done in this cycle. Probably we need a few more years. And another thing which we see is pretty bullish is the renaissance or the comeback of Bitcoin to the smart contract platform. Some of the Bitcoins is about to enter smart contract platform we say probably in the next quarter or two. A lot of projects is already about to launch the solutions to allow Bitcoin liquidity to enter smart contract platform, Ethereum and Ethereum rollups and EVM chains. This is going to enable the next wave of application booming and probably, I'm not sure about the user adoption, but for sure about hypes. Thank you.
Yeah, I think that's everyone's trying to work on. I mean, I heard some crazy numbers, how many real Web3 builders out there. It's really crazy low. So I think it's something like lower than 500K or something. So we should really try to get new builders, new developers, new users. I think that's the reason why we're all here. Part of the reason. So thank you all here today, and I think that's the panel. And please follow all the panelists on either Twitter or not Twitter, or just on the website, and then to learn more about what they are building, and follow on the projects. And thank you all for listening, and thank you for the time.
Thank you.
Thank you for the great questions and organizing an awesome conference.
Thank you.